Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ball Watching. We have a solo show today. It is just me on the mic today to do a recap of St. Louis City SC and their 0-0 draw with Portland. Guys, taking a deep breath before getting into this one. Thought about doing the recap live after the whistle last night, but I think emotions were running high and just needed time to process all of this. But I felt like my mind really hasn't come off of a lot of different ideas that have been floating through my mind as we kind of pry open what went wrong last night in this 0-0 draw. I got a lot of good thoughts from you all. I did put out a tweet at the very end of the game, and I said, for those that didn't see it, to be honest, alarm bells are ringing a bit now. This is a game you absolutely have to win, in all caps, at home if you're St. Louis City SC. Continuing to struggle, beating inferior opposition at home, and draws on the road aren't going to cut it for much longer. I still feel that way. In fact, even more so now that I've had time to process and think more about this. But that's a good, I think, thematic way to start the episode for you all. And by the way, since it's just me today, for anyone that's listening live, definitely throw in some good comments and questions here. I'm going to try to get through them towards the end of the show, or kind of work them in as we go, depending on the topic. So you all can play co-host today and sit in Justin's shoes for a little bit. So before I get into the full recap, I do want to say I ran into a couple listeners today. It was awesome. Or sorry, yesterday, last night. It was great seeing these folks. Shout out to Nick, who I ran into probably just outside section 205 in the concourse. Said he listens to the show, loves it. So shout out to you, Nick. Thank you for stopping me and introducing yourself and saying hi. And I also want to give a big birthday shout out to Mike Rice, who I met at the pitch in the pregame. It was his birthday. Was looking probably for a little bit more than what City gave him last night, but he lives in Denver, listens to the show from Florissant, Missouri. Also, DeSmet grad. Let's go! So shout out to you, Mike. And I asked you too for a little bit of a message to help me put this into the podcast. And I love what you said, because I think in some ways it was a little bit before its time after the game. So what you said was, just to reiterate how much we love this team and how much we love these players, and how much it means to us that we have the ability to watch this team, every week in and out. And yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs, and there's been plenty of downs recently. But, at its core, I, and obviously Mike, and I know a lot of you love this team, and we feel so passionately about this team, and we take it pretty seriously. We're pretty hard on the team as well. So I did want to pause and just, say anyone, hopefully I haven't seen much of it, but there's no, tearing down certain players here and there. But, obviously we can take a critical look at things, but these guys are, taking their lives and their careers, and they're representing St. Louis in this way. So obviously, I do appreciate the players, and I appreciate how hard it can be to be on that stage at times. So we love the players. I just want to reiterate that. I think it's important to kind of ground us as we head into this, because things are going to get a little ugly. That we do love this club, we love this team, but we want to see some things change. So thank you to all you dropping some comments already in here. I'm going to get to these. So for the recap today, for me, doing a first half, second half, I'm going to get through some things here, but I do want to get more into the trends and storylines and themes that I think we're probably all more interested in, but that will come out in some of these highlights and lowlights that I've taken note of for the first half and second half. So that's a quick kind of spoiler. That's kind of how I want to focus a lot of this show. So starting 11, our Hoffman brothers starting 11 last night. Obviously, Hoffman brothers, for you all that do listen and or have not listened yet, they are our 2024 presenting sponsor for ball watching this year. And a cool thing I found out recently about Hoffman Bros. So obviously you all know them. They're the best home services, probably partner organization in St. Louis, also in Nashville as well, for any of my Nashville folks out there. But they do everything under the roof. They've already been to my house a couple of times this year, tuning up for the AC as we get into the summer. But one thing that I really appreciate about them too is this fix now, pay later kind of type program they have. And that flexibility to be able to have someone out when you need them, at the moment, or within a certain time frame, to provide the fixes to your home that you need to keep living your life in an undisturbed way, but also having the flexibility in Hoffman Brothers to get on a monthly payment plan to kind of offset some of that initial investment. Because guys, I mean, home ownership and fixing stuff is crazy expensive, but they realize that and they meet you halfway, and they give you this ability and this peace of mind to be able to pay in monthly increments. You can save on interest, and it's convenient. They make it easy to do. So just ask your professional about it if you have any questions, or you would like to enroll in this type of program when you do have them out for your services. But a cool thing that Hoffman Brothers is doing, providing that financial sort of alleviation, or at least kind of stretching things out over time to be flexible for customers. So I appreciate that about Hoffman Brothers. And if you all appreciate Hoffman Brothers, or if you need any home services, make sure you give them a call at 314-664-3011, or visit them online at hoffmanbros.com. All right, the time you all have been waiting for. Let's get into the first half, and the starting 11. So Berkey, Marcanic, Nilsson, Parker, Totland make up the defense. Dirk and Leuven in the midfield, and then Célio, Kajima with the start at the 10, and Indy out on the right, replacing Alm, who is going to be out for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and then Klaus up top. I thought, pretty much, I think I said on the podcast for the preview that I was thinking we might see Aziel Jackson. That was not to be. Obviously, Kajima got the start there, and I think acquitted himself rather well. I wasn't overly impressed or underwhelmed. I think he did what was asked of him for the most part. He led the press, which was awesome to see, a young guy like that coming in and really taking the helm and leading. I mean, the engine that he has, it's like Indy, like it's crazy how much mileage he has in those legs, and the pace and the intense runs that he makes. So I appreciate that about Kajima, and I thought it was a good start, and he earned it from his Miami performance. So we'll get into the rest of the players as we get into the recap. But the first half, it was great. It was right off the bat. We saw in the third minute, Klaus and Durkin combined to create a chance at one end, and just right after that, Portland is able to counter, but Berkey with a huge opening couple minutes save on Cabecita, Jonathan Rodriguez, with his man closing on him. So Berkey makes a great strong hand save on a kind of a curling shot that Cabecita tries to take, and we're off. I mean, this to me, I was with my wife Maggie at this game, and we were like, this game would be fun. Watching the first couple of minutes and seeing that first chance flurry for both sides. In the 12th minute, I had Klaus, who scored on a Kajima takeaway, and Durkin had a quick pass to Klaus, but he was just marginally offsides. I want to give the kudos to Portland's back line there. I feel one of the center backs had a quick, just last minute step to get and draw Klaus offsides. So that was impressive on their part. But City Park had celebrated like it was a goal. And it was a good finish by Klaus, but it was not to be, as that one was ruled out. We saw some Leuven set piece delivery, fantastic all night last night. A couple hit the wall and so those direct free kicks, but his corner kicks were just absolutely killer. In the 16th minute, he hit a near post corner kick to Parker, who won the header very clearly, but knotted it off target. I mean, it was one that you'd like to have back if you're Tim Parker, and one that most of the time I do feel like we're running to the sidelines, running to the corner flag, and we're celebrating in City Park is going ballistic, but not last night. So that was a big miss for us early on in the game. In the 17th minute, shortly after that, Nilsson spotted Leuven in the pocket, who lofted a long ball over the top to a surging Kajima, who was making a great run and behind. He just was a couple steps behind it and couldn't get to it before the keeper collected that one. We saw another big save from Berkey in the 18th minute after a deflected shot on a counter where Portland got to, the final third, got in and around the 18, kind of hit the brakes a little bit, found their playmaker in Evander, and Evander took a shot. It took a pretty nasty deflection, but Roman Berkey equal to it with a great parry of a save. In the 34th minute, obviously we kind of did a little time jump there. So I think the game kind of settles in a little bit more after the early madness. 34th minute, Leuven takes some space being offered to him, plays a deft, just perfect through ball into Klaus, who's fighting off some pretty serious contact in the box, can't get enough on the shot of pace to put it over the line, but steers it just enough accurately to be goal bound, but it is cleared, not like a goal line clearance or anything, but the guy's able to dribble it out of harm's way and out of crossing the line. Another big chance for us comes and goes. And I'm starting to think to myself, I wish I wrote it down at the time, that is it another one of these games where you look the more dangerous team, you just can't seem to put it together to actually just find the back of the net. And you would have been right if you were also having that thought at that time. 39th minute, we had a late step from Anthony Marcanic to draw Antony on Portland offsides. It was one that then, the referee didn't put the flag up initially, but Berkey made an awesome 1v1 kick save on it anyway, even though it would be ruled offsides shortly after. I like to see that. I wanted to make note of that because we gave Marcanic a lot of crap in that last game, but the way that he was able to, and this is just one moment, but the way that he was able to hopefully learn from the experience in the last game and how he got burnt on that offsides trap, or just not playing an offsides trap cohesively with his defensive partners. It was nice to see him kind of take that and be able to improve on that in the next game. So I do want to give him a quick shout out there. There was a corner kick clearance in the 43rd minute that landed to Célio, who had a nice little half volley on goal, forced a save there. And late on in the half, before the dying minutes, were a yellow card that I wanted to talk about, where Leuven tried to be a little bit too cute winning the ball, failed to clearly win it, and Nilsson was forced to take a yellow card there. Yellow cards were hot and heavy last night, and we will get to that. There was a ton of those, but that was, I think, the first one of the night for us. Looking back into the second half, getting deeper into it, there was a lot more action to me in the first half, and you definitely think that going in that 0-0, Portland probably feels pretty fortunate, despite having two good opportunities and two great Berkey saves. We were knocking on the door. I wouldn't say dominating, but if you looked at any team that had more of the possession, it was definitely us. And I think if you looked at a team that was more likely to score, at least over the course of a game, you probably would have said City. But that obviously did not happen in the second half, as a low light starts me off in the second half. Klaus gets on the end of Kojima takeaway, but his touch lets him down, and he beats the goalie, but he beats himself as well with one of his touches and goes out of bounds as he's in behind. In the 51st, another low light here with Kojima. Had great work rate, trying to pressure the ball after a Parker giveaway, but you want to see that channeled the right way, and he slides right through the back of a Portland player, which is always going to be yellow card. Even if you do get ball, if you're going to the back of a player, usually it's just not going to look good, and it's going to be a yellow card quickly out of the referee's pocket. We saw our first sub, right, I think before that, in the 49th minute, Nilsson coming out for Yarrow. Nilsson, it sounds like, from the post game, and by the way, I have nothing to refer to on post game because they haven't released it yet, at least time of recording. But I do have some quotes I was able to get from Justin Horniker on Twitter. So I will get to some of those here soon. But Nilsson looks like he's okay. I think it was very cautious of them to pull him out last night. Just wasn't moving around like he was before. And so they put on Yarrow. And Yarrow we hadn't seen since April. So it's good to see Josh return to City Park and return to form in a game that had some pretty good intensity as well. In the 65th minute, I had another low light here. No more long balls in behind to Klaus. I mean, I'm so sick of it. I mean, last night in the second half especially, I feel like that was the game plan. It's okay. We're not finding the right opportunity to score clearly in and around the 18s. Let's just lump it long and hope that Klaus can get on the end of it. Guys, when has that ever worked? He doesn't have the pace. He doesn't have, first of all, I don't want him out there in the wide space either. I want someone else doing that. Usually that's what Alm would do. But right now we're sorely missing anyone that has that vertical threat. And that, for me, will probably continue for at least the time being. Ref, another talking point last night. I'm not blaming anything on the ref, but I do think the ref's way of officiating the game last night is particularly annoying to me, with all of the calls, all the fouls, all of the yellow cards, especially in the 67th minute. I wrote it down here. Kind of feeling like he wants to put his name in the headlines in the spotlight. He called Célio on a clean, hard tackle with the yellow card after a loose Leuven pass. And I can see those, being teed up for a yellow card situation. We talked about that with George Ganser. Those loose touches, those loose passes do open players up to take a pretty vicious challenge. But I mean, that was clean as day. I'm clear as day. And it was clean as a whistle. I mean, I don't know what that guy was watching. He's right on top of it. And he called a clear yellow on Célio there, which sucked. Oh, by the way, anyone looking at the title of the episode right now, my wife and I were sitting at the breakfast table this morning kind of thinking, like, what could we do that's going to maybe be a joke or something lighter for anyone to look at as a title, given what we dealt with last night? And we came up with Célio, unable to Célio the Déalio. So I will give credit to my wife on that one. She is in the marketing department working hard behind the scenes for you all to get some punny and fun titles. So we have that one going for us today. Célio, I thought had a pretty decent game last night. He was one of the higher rated players when you look at the whole of his performance. And now I'm getting into subs. Indy and Marcanic come off in the 70th minute for Watts and AZ. Man, shout out to Akil Watts. We have not seen him in what feels like ages, but coming in at left back this time, not at right back. I'm in for that experiment. If you can have Marcanic duel it out with Watts, if we're not going to see Dewar push him, I am down to see a little bit of a different profile out there. I don't think Marcanic is, at the level that we require, but he's doing the job right now. And I think we would like to see more of an upgrade. I'm not saying that Akil Watts is a clear upgrade off the bat, but I would like to see some competition at that spot that isn't just Marcanic getting the guaranteed start every single game. Uh, Klaus did some great hold up play in the 73rd minute to draw a foul outside the 18, and that came our best chance with a Leuven free kick. So he got over the wall, curled it over the wall, hits the post. Tim Parker, who was sitting on the wall with the Portland defenders, by the way, they had a 7-man wall. One of the men were on the ground, guarding for that low free kick if Leuven tries to go under the wall when they jump. The rebound hits the post, falls to Parker, who had peeled off the wall, and he takes one touch, beats the man that's close to him, and all he's got to do is just pass it into the net. Portland defender, I don't know his name, but I'll give credit to him, kind of sees what's coming and is able to get back, basically just dangle a leg out, and Parker's shot on the open net just hits him in the leg, and it gets cleared out. And you could feel the life just get sucked out of the stadium. We just wanted to see that goal fall so badly, and that was the best chance of the night. I mean, it's an open goal, and it's fallen to Tim Parker, and you think he usually takes things on himself to make that go in for us, and it just didn't happen. And again, you wonder to yourself, okay, now we're 30 minutes more past what I last took a reflection about, are we going to get this goal tonight? And it's still not happening for us despite that great chance. And I didn't really feel like after that there was a whole lot to talk about, which is a problem to me. There was some Célio fancy feet in the 78th minute that I had a great view on in my section, where he split two defenders and drew another corner kick. In the 80th minute, Kajima finally came out for a dinner in. I'm pretty sure this is really cool. Someone, if you caught it, let me know. I thought I saw Kajima bow to the field as he was leaving. I do not know if that my eyes were deceiving me, but if that happened, that is so cool. I've never seen that, and maybe that does happen, but I've never seen it, and so I was really down for it. But someone tell me if I'm wrong. And there was a low light in the 81st where the ref, again, keeping consistent all night, I will say that, and I'll get to that, gave a yellow to Durkin after he stepped on a Portland player. A little bit lazy challenge, but that guy made a meal of it. It was an accidental, boot to the top of his boot. Yarrow in the 82nd minute made a super lazy pass to Durkin that led to a Portland breakout. Toland had to take a yellow card, bring his man down, and we kind of went out without a bang. That's it. That's all I wrote down, because there was nothing that, I usually feel like we always give the team the commentary that, they got to play like they do in the last 15 through the whole game. But the last 15 last night were nothing to write home about. After that Leuven chance on the free kick with Parker, that was it. I don't have anything positive to say, and that's going to get me into some of my themes for the team and just for this overall picture as you look at St. Louis City. At full time, there were some boos, and I told some people I was with before that, if we don't get a win here, I could imagine some boos, and part of that is warranted. Part of that is fans that aren't used to struggling like this, like we have been compared to last season. So I've kind of put together some things that I want to talk about, and I've layered in some of 2023 as well. But I also try to do my best in siphoning between 2023 and 24, because I've said this before on the podcast, but I do feel like us winning the Western Conference last year is doing ourselves as a franchise a little bit of a disservice at this point, because no one expected that. We outperformed our XG far and away. We slipped a lot towards the end of the season, but our early season form really helped carry us over that line. And I think it is kind of permanently altered expectations with this team, for better or for worse. I think we do have much higher expectations. I think part of that's also just being a St. Louis sports fan. You want your team to be out there competing for every single game and every single trophy where you can. And I just don't think that that's what we're going to get out of this franchise moving forward. I think this is going to be operated a lot more sustainably, not splashing on those big players or really they're not going to ever tell you that they're not trying to win trophies or championships. But I do think this team is much more about a holistic approach to sporting and business as a whole, not just trophies like other teams are. And I think that can be a good thing too, really improving St. Louis, improving that area, investing around that area, investing in the community, bringing more kids into the game and opening up pathways there. Like I think all that stuff's super important. I love the direction, but I think that winning the Western Conference has almost kind of tailored those expectations now where we do really, really, look at this team a lot more critically now when they're not performing up to that type of snuff. And I'm not saying that we should be in last either, but I think, realistically for me, this team is one that needs to be, middle to upper part of the table and needs to be competing in the playoffs and knockout competitions. And we haven't seen that yet. But that to me is kind of our identity, as far as the results type take you and the things off the field, I'm not going to get into in this show, but obviously that stuff is really important as well. So the themes, first one for me, current form. I'm not talking about home yet. We're winless in our last five, second worst record over that stretch. We have 18 points currently through now 16 games, almost a halfway point in the season. That next game for us will be the halfway point in this season. So what does that mean? 18 points. We had 18 points by our eighth game last season. We're almost now halfway through this season, and we're at that same mark. Not great, but I'm not also going to, say that that's where we should be either. I'm just kind of providing a comparison. So we've played double the amount of games, but we have the same amount of points as last season. And to even double down on this, on the road, yet to win. So not, things that you really want to be associated with. So that's not great. Now let me double click on home form. So home form to me, and I think most pundits you talk about in the MLS and their opinions, that translates to success. Kind of there is a good correlation between home form and success in the MLS. And, I'm talking about success in points gathered. Most of the top teams you look at in the table are doing well at home. We're sitting right now 13th. So we're not the worst, but we're basically sitting right about average. If you look at last season, we were 8th overall at home and then collected 11 wins by the end of the season. That's a lot of wins. We have 3 wins this season. All 3 have come at home, but there's also been some brutal home draws and losses as well. So you got to correct that to me. Again, you got to find a way to reestablish City Park as a comfortable and familiar territory where you're able to ride the fans and ride the vibes and the hype to goal scoring. And that gets me into our third theme, goal scoring. Whatever reason it is, it's Klaus, sometimes it's Dinaran, sometimes it's Leuven, sometimes it's Célio. The finishing, it's just not been there this season. It's been there in bits. It was there last weekend in Miami. But I guess for me, I'll correct this one. It's goal scoring consistently. We are feast or famine, it feels like at this point, where either it's working for us that night or it's really not working for us that night, and we're not going to score at all. We had some good chances last night, and we also had some half chances like we had in Miami game, and those games went in. I mean, those goals went in. Last night, they didn't. And we had some really great opportunities that you do have to finish. You just have to. Like, there's no easy way for me to dance around it or just say it. You just have to finish. I don't care who it is. Tim Parker on a corner, Leuven on a free kick, Klaus in behind. Someone has to step up and ensure that we get on the board. Because when you're on the board, look at the confidence that comes into it. Look at the comfortability. The defenders play a little higher. They play a little more aggressive. The team, my prediction last night was a 3-0 W. And even though we drew 0-0, I don't feel like we were that far from a 3-0 win because in my mind, if one of those early chances comes in, let me just think about one. If that Klaus chance in the 12th minute where he did score, but it was ruled offsides, if he just somehow manages to stay onside there, I do think we win 3-0. I think we run away with that game. But it's about getting that first one and getting it early, and it changes the game. The more time that goes on for us, the more frustrated I feel like we get internally, and our chance creation doesn't help because to me, we're finding ourselves in more dangerous positions this year than we did last year. But again, the negative for me comes down to goal scoring. We're not finishing those chances. And secondarily, now that we're getting into those positions more than we did last year, I feel like the difference for me is that it's that last pass, it's that last touch. Maybe it's the second to last pass where in and around the 18, I feel like it's a grenade sometimes. It's we don't play composed. We don't look to lead the person we're passing to. We don't think about the small things that make it really, really difficult to defend against and create a high quality chance. So let me just think of an example to tell you. Like, let's just say we're around the 18 and I'm going to pass the ball to Indy. I know that Indy's left footed. If I'm going to have Indy shoot it and he's to my right, I want to play it a little bit behind him so he can wrap his left foot around it and hit a one-time shot versus me playing it to his right foot, which is going to cause him to take a touch, kind of open his body up a little bit, and then take that shot. I think it's just those small things where in and around that area, we need to be more composed and find the right opportunities and play with, poise and really a lot of intent on those final bits and pieces because it's never gonna be perfect, but we're so far from perfect right now. Look at the shots blocked last night. We'll get into those stats, but I think a lot of that comes down to good positioning from Portland defense, definitely. But I also just think it comes down to just kind of miscues and small things that when we get them, the moment's gone sometimes because it either took too long or because it wasn't the right setup. So I do want to hit on that with chance creation. Discipline for me is another big one. Guys, 7 yellow cards last night. I know it was a physical game. I know some of those were professional fouls. Some of them were for dissent as well. 21 fouls on top of that. Yes, the referee was calling everything under the sun last night. But I could have told you that, by the 30th minute mark, saying this guy is going to manage things really tight. He's not going to let a lot of things play. And that sucks. But that doesn't mean that he's bad. He definitely made some calls last night I didn't agree with. But if I'm a City player or if I'm Carnell, someone's got to communicate that and you got to alter how you play a little bit to understand and to fully take that into your frame of reference that there's going to be a lot of little small fouls tonight. So we can't be the ones that are constantly disrupting this game and the game flow. So you've got to adapt to the referee sometimes. And I hate to say that because the referee has so much sway on a game. And I don't like that type of sway when it's a lot of calls, but I don't want to blame the referee either. You know what I mean? Like everyone was under that same microscope last night, even the Portland players, and they made the most of it. They sold a lot of fouls. They, went down a lot. I don't want us to do that stuff. You know what I mean? But it's just you've got to take that into consideration and understand that the ref is as bad as a lot of people say he was last night, was consistent for the most part, in my opinion. So that's one thing I'll say on discipline. Mentality, things that don't show up on the score sheet. It was bad last night, in my opinion, especially towards the end. I'm looking at this team, and last 15 minutes, I said we went out without a fight. I didn't see any level of urgency. Like if I am those players and we're 0-0 at home, going how this season has been going for us, I am sprinting after every ball that goes out of bounds, trying to get it inbounds as quick as possible. I'm getting everyone up the field. I'm playing as if we're down because we are down in this season, and you've got to treat it like that, right? I want to see urgency and leadership. I want to see someone, be desperate to get that goal on the board. And I did not see it in the slightest last night. And that to me signals a little bit of complacency that's crept into the team where, in the post-game press conference, again, I don't have it, but from the comments I did see, I want to see accountability taken for some players. I think Berkey is one that always seems to do it. And I'm not saying the players didn't, but I will say from what I've seen with Carnell, I know that he mentions he likes to highlight the positives and some of the things they can work on, but I do want to see a little bit more of him sometimes, just kind of being like, the performance wasn't good last night. I don't understand the energy's there, and that's great. The energy's there, but the results aren't. So who cares if the energy's there and the results aren't when that's constantly what you're saying time and time again? I want to see a little bit of accountability come in here and guys take responsibility, and I want to see people, pissed off. And that's just not what you see last night when I'm at least looking at these players towards the end of the game. Like I don't see that desperation. And I do feel like we're in that time where we should be. Substitutions, another Carnell thing, little to no impact. Anytime we have substitutions, I think throughout this entirety of the season, I will say Kojima last week, but that was out of necessity given the injury to Alm. I mean, we're just not getting anything off the bench. No one is offering any bit of improvement or lift to this team when they get on the bench. And it's bizarre. I don't get it, and I know some of it's a quality gap, and we don't have the best depth. But I mean, I think of a guy like Adeniran or a guy like Aziel Jackson. These guys should be chomping at the bit to come on and cement minutes to get down the stretch here. Not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it at all. And these guys have fresh legs and they're coming on against, guys been playing for 70, 60 minutes already. Like I need to see more off the bench. And we're not going to get any more players, soon. Like right now, we have to make the most of what we have. I feel like they're coming a little bit late from Carnell's point of view. I wish he was a little more aggressive on that side of things. And I think the subs, you've just got to do a better job. You've got to be hungrier out there. And that kind of goes back to mentality. So let me close out a little bit on the themes for now and get to some of the stats because I think this is a good transition point. So there's a great account on Twitter if you all want to follow it. It's MLS Stat. That's the handle, at MLS Stat. And it's MLS statistics and analysis. I'm sure you've all seen some of the graphics floating around here. But maybe I'll pop this one up for all my virtual folks. Yeah, I will share screen. So anyone watching on YouTube, feel free to take a look here. And if not, again, go reference MLS Stat. This thing, to me, kind of points something out that I haven't been able to hit on yet. So what if you're not looking at this and you're on podcast, what you're seeing is a list of our players by jersey number and their goals added in the top left. Goals added is a unique stat, but basically it's how dangerous are you with your touches in all the action categories. So shooting, passing, tackles, all those types of things. And we had 5 players with a positive goals added metric last night. We had Watts, Marcanic, Nilsson, Kojima, Aziel Jackson, Indy, Klaus, all with negative goals added values. And that's taking the net of it all the action categories. How much of an impact did they make on the game last night with all the touches that they had from a receiving and distribution point of view? It's not good. It's not flattering when you've only guys like Durkin, Leuven, Totland, Parker, and Célio in the positive there. And those guys are probably the guys you're looking at yourself last night saying, okay, that makes sense because they looked like the most dangerous players that we had on the pitch last night. Our pass network map is okay. It really does tell you kind of how we like to set up and how we like to progress and attack. And we were doing a lot more attacking than defending last night. And sort of, I would call like a 3-4-3 with Marcanic kind of staying more towards the back. And then you have your center backs in Parker and Nilsson helping the build up. And then you have Totland, who's kind of joined up as almost like a right midfielder or right wing back. And then you have your central midfield duo of Durkin and Leuven. And then you have Kojima as well with them. And then you have Célio, and then you have Indy and Klaus that are a little more advanced in positions. The passing network, I'm not going to focus on too much, but you look at the zones of control that we had last night, a lot on the flanks of Portland's defensive half, but down the middle, not finding much. And you'd really like to see a little more red in and around the Portland 18, because that's where a guy like Klaus can be great in hold-up play and be able to generate chances and danger around the center of the pitch. And we didn't see a lot of that last night. I talked about some of the areas I don't like seeing him in those wide areas, but we did see a lot of it last night. And so you want to see that, hopefully start to change a little bit. Passes into the final third. Obviously, we had plenty of them last night. A lot of them, though, again, very, very wide of the 18. I only see one pass into the 18 last night. So that's something that I think we got to look at a little bit more critically. And then the final thing is, where we're making those passes. Clearly, we are focusing a lot of our attack on the right side through Totland and getting him up the field and pushing us forward. And it's not doing enough for us yet. But I do think that is where we like to channel a lot of our attack. And especially when a guy like Alm is gone for us for a while, it's going to be even more important for Totland to drive us forward and get up the right side of the field. So just a couple of graphics to show you all there. But getting into the stats, talked about shots a little bit. Obviously, we had more shots than them. But shots off target, we had 3 to their 5. On target, we had 4 to their 2. But block shots, we had 8. We had 8 of our shots blocked last night. They blocked 0. Sorry, we blocked 0 of their shots, but they had 8 of ours. So they blocked over half of our shots last night. I mean, I can think of 3 from Leuven, at least 2 of those being on set pieces. And that gets back to my commentary around just composure around the 18. I think that is something that helps that move that number down, hopefully, and have less block shots. Passes, we had the possession last night. We had more passes, more accurate passes. And if you look at the game, I do think you said that we kind of dictated the pace and that Portland's main outlet was on the counter. And they were dangerous in the counter, obviously, generating a couple of shots on target that Berkey was equal to. Yellow cards we talked about last night, too many for my liking. Tackles, we were the aggressor last night, which is great. But again, all these stats are fine and dandy, but really the only stat that matters, when you look at it for the whole season, is the scoreline. And 0-0 is a great result for Portland, and it's a really bad result for us. I've seen some tweets and commentary around, 2 points dropped. I'd say it's 3 points dropped. Anything less than a win in this game was a failure in my eyes. And I think that's how you have to look at it. If you're St. Louis City this season, take a look inward, hold yourself accountable. Playing Portland at home at City Park when you've only accumulated 18 points through 16 matches now this season, that's a failure. You have to beat Portland. You just have to. So that's how we'll kind of wrap up some of the commentary before getting into players. So my heart and soul of the team, so Soul Juice for us, another great sponsor of ours. Get 20% off online orders for Soul Juice at souljuice.com. Use code BALLWATCHING at checkout for that 20% off. You can also hit them at Straub's, Deerberg's, Schnucks, On the Run, plenty of places here in St. Louis. If you want it, Soul Juice is there for you. And it is there for you on these weekends where it's hot, you're moving around outside. This is going to help give you that potassium, that fuel for the soul to keep you healthy and keep you going. So make sure to get some Soul Juice in you this weekend and this week. My heart and soul of the team last night, I found it difficult because I really wanted to give it to Berkey to start. But I do think, again, he only had 2 saves to make last night. They were both very early on. He had some good recoveries, some great punches last night, a lot of things that, again, you don't think of top of mind when you look at the stats, but he commanded his box last night. I do want to give him his kudos there, but I'm going to have to go to Leuven on my heart and soul of the team. He generated 0.18 XG, 0.45 expected assists, and he had the most touches on the field out of any player last night. He had the second best accuracy for passing. He created 2 chances by himself and 7 passes into the final third. He's retaken his role of our composer. Everything seems to flow through him. And I thought he was really impressive last night. Again, I think he's still even getting up to speed, that we haven't hit the peak Leuven form yet. But if we're going to hit our peak as a team, he will be a huge part of it. So Leuven was my heart and soul of the team last night. I already talked about the pitch. It was absolutely bumping last night, just packed when I was getting there. And I got there pretty early. I mean, at least for me, around 5. Great to see the place rocking like that. We were watching the U.S. men's national team game before, which also sucked. If you are a U.S. men's national team fan and a St. Louis City SC fan, I'm sure you're having a rough morning because it was not a great day as the U.S. went down 5-1 to Colombia in a tune-up match ahead of Copa America. So not great things looking there, but we probably will do a little more U.S. men's national team stuff as we get closer to Copa because we are going to cover that as a tournament. All right, getting into some questions and overall predictions, takeaways before we wrap the show up here. Justin and I both predicted W's. I predicted 3-0. He predicted 2-1. We both put our Grahammers on the money line plus over 1.5. Yikes. Not a great night on that side of things, but we move. All right, let me get through some of the comments and questions that you all had in here. I'm seeing some commentary about Klaus has been toothless this year. Tyler coming in with that one. I mean, for the most part, I would agree with you. I think he's had stretches where he's been better, and you've seen the flashes of 23 with him, but it hasn't been consistent enough. And I can say that from a lot of the team, so I don't think it's him. I'm not going to, by any means, take out my frustrations on him. Don't think he's been up to speed or snuff, and I don't think most players around him have either. But if we're struggling to score goals, he has to be a big part of that solution. Like, if we're going to get off the mark, I don't think it's as easy as just throwing it at Rand and there to say, okay, give him the reins now and let's go back to it. I think as a team, we need to be successful, and Klaus is a big piece of that puzzle. So I think we need to get him going for that. 10 goals and 9 home games is horrible. Coming in from Tricky, 993. Agreed. I mean, just brutal. Look at our home form last season. I mean, we had 10 goals in a couple of games. It's just ridiculous to think about the change in our misfortune, I would say, this year. If we had an informed striker last night, we would have had a minimum 2 goals from Tyler. Agreed. I think, again, it just takes that one to fall, that first domino. And I do think the floodgates kind of open up a little bit for us. But again, you got to you got to just be lethal on that one opportunity early on in the game. And I think it changes the complexion entirely as you look at a full 90 minutes. I do think it also tempers with Lutz's plans. Daniel in here with Lutz has to bring in probably at least another attacking player during the summer window. I think he probably was thinking about that anyway, but I do think that this probably reinforces that a bit, that we are just sorely lacking on creativity, finishing, and depth. I'm not even saying that we need to bring in someone that is a starting 11 caliber right off the bat, but someone that we can go to and be able to put into the game and they can have a meaningful impact. The chances obviously not being converted, Tyler in here with that. I'm seeing a lot of good a lot of good conversation. 21 fouls is crazy. Guys, 21 fouls is a lot. There was like 32 fouls last night in the game. I mean, that's like a foul every couple of minutes. It's ridiculous. No one wants to be a part of that. It just felt like a whistle fest at times last night. A little bit of Tolan appreciation. Genuinely, how fast is Tolan? I saw him burn 2 defenders on a Berkey long ball and multiple times make insane recovery runs on defense. I agree. He's often an unsung hero, I think, of most games for us because now we're kind of getting used to what he brings to the team, and I'm here for it, man. He's great up and down. I think defensively he works his tail off, and he has a hard job getting up and back. That's a lot of fitness and a lot of miles he's putting in the engine, but he seems to be up for it. So I am always down for that. Uh, Jonathan in here with I think Watts has looked better than Marcanic. No, I mean he looked fine last night. We haven't seen a lot of Watts this season at all. But if I'm not mistaken, that might have been his second or third appearance of the season. And again, I'm not one to I'm not going to trash on Marcanic, but I would like at least competition. And it doesn't seem like Carnell is angling to have Dewar and Marcanic kind of battle that one out. So if Watts is going to battle out, I'm good with that. I think that's great. I think if you can get competition going on that side. If Watts can move the needle even marginally, I am all for it. So I'm down with that competition. We have a comment in here from Brett around we have to take better advantage of the first half when our best 11 is out there. I agree. If we're a team like we are, where we really are focused and structured to defend forward and play very focused on attack, you've got to come out swinging. And coming out swinging is really pinning that team back and punishing them in the first, opening 15, 30 minutes and getting a goal. That's how we defended last season. You guys remember that? I mean, we used to put in 2, 3, 4 goals a game, it felt like at times. And they came at will. And that was our best form of defense, was just scoring more than the other team at a lot of times. And defensively last night, I actually think defensively as the season has progressed, we've actually been okay defensively this year. I think better than last year in terms of moving the needle. But the chances we've suffered have been lapses and things where I think a lot of it is in our control. And we nullified a good Portland offense last night that was, high powered, good attackers. They're, I think, the 4th most goals for this year, 0 last night. And they didn't really look that up to it. There were some good chances that Berkey made a couple saves on, but again, I think we did a good job nullifying them. We have Tyler comment here. I feel like from last year to this year, we are being more selective with our shots instead of just ripping them when we have the opportunity. And it's been hurting us because we need to just put the ball on goal more frequently. Tyler, I kind of disagree with you a little bit there. I feel like a little bit of the inverse, where I think we are getting into more dangerous areas. So I will agree with you on that piece more than we were last year. But I don't think the solution is to shoot earlier or to shoot frequently. I think the solution is to work on that in training, set our whole attacking lineup, in and around the final third of the field, in and around the 18 against our defense and say, break these guys down. Show me you can do it. And when I'm saying that, I'm not just saying like taking long shots or taking early shots. I think it's finding the right shots and being great with that final pass and leaving the small details, like putting those really fine touches in and around the 18 and being super crisp and clean with your passing. And I think the finishing will come if you can really pay attention and be intentional about, in and around the 18 touches. So that to me is a big thing. Yeah, Brad, you did say one, we seem to make a lot of too many touches, and the last touch is always bad instead of just finding the open guy and making quick passes, taking a shot. I agree. Sam, we have some Sam commentary in here. Sam showed no effort or urgency in his 10 minutes last night. It was the last straw for me. No longer a fan. I'm not going to go that far yet and write off Sam, but remember how much he was banging at the beginning of this year? Like, where did that go? We had so much momentum with him, and then the off the field stuff, and now he's a shadow of himself. And the cameos that we're getting, I'm not getting anything to take away from that. I'm like, you know what? I want to put him in for Klaus next game, and I wish I was. I wish we had competition there too. So a lot. We've said a lot on the show. You know, I've kind of I feel like been able to take myself now out of this. We've processed it. I really do think that we are going to turn this around, and the benefit is that it's not too late. And I would say, I'd take it even further. It's nowhere close to too late for this team. I mean, looking at the Western Conference right now, we're now sitting 11th, so we're outside the playoff line, but we have a game in hand on a couple of teams ahead of us: Seattle, Portland, even Colorado, most teams ahead of us, and we're only 3 points out of that wild card spot. That isn't the goal for me. Let me just be honest, but that just tells you that as poor as we've been, we string together a couple of wins and take this next run of matches and really just kind of start gearing up for some results and getting that goal scoring against teams that we should be beating. Once again, Portland was one of them. We should be beating. If we can't win in this stretch, I don't have faith in this team to win much this season in that case. Like, you got to figure it out now. It's not something you can just keep putting off and getting draws on the road and getting draws at home. That's only going to take us so far. And I hate to hearken to them because we don't like them. But look at a team like Sporting Kansas City last night. They are having, you think our season's bad? They are having an awful, awful first half of the season. Atrocious. They were on 11 points before last night. But they play Seattle, and Seattle gets a red card. And I didn't watch the full game. I've just seen some highlights. But Sporting finds a way, even with a man up, to get a late goal in the 82nd minute and get themselves 3 points against Seattle. Those teams that find a way, even when the going gets tough and the odds are stacked against you, or even when the odds are stacked for you. I don't care if the odds are stacked for you. You still have to go out and do it. And I'm not seeing that from this team, but teams that are inferior to us are showing it. So part of me splits it, is that there's, I think, a skill thing, something to do with coaching, but it's also mentalities. Like, at some point we got to look ourselves in the mirror and say, what do we want to be this season? And there's still time to make that decision. And I hope they make the right decision, because I think this team is much better than what you're seeing on paper right now and what you're seeing with your eyes. I don't think we've seen anything close to the peak of what St. Louis City in 2024 is. And I do think if we can turn this around, this adversity will be something good for us to look back on and make the most of. So that's all I have for you all today. Hopefully you've all enjoyed a little processing, a little bit of time spent reflecting on last night's fixture. Thank you all for joining the show, for ball watching, and make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. We're working our way to 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there. Just need a little more help from you all in the community. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and I hope you all have a fantastic week, better than Saturday night, of course, and we move on. We move on. We put this behind us. We learn our lessons, lick our wounds, and we're on to Saturday. So everyone have a great rest of your week. Jake signing off. All for City.